a world where we have everything and it's still not enough, we're often left wondering, is this really it?
Deep inside, you know there's more to life. You're ready to leave behind the old push your way through and claim the deeper, more meaningful life that's calling you.
That's what we invite you to explore with us.
We're your hosts,
Stephanie Allen
and Maren. And this is the Soulful Leader Podcast.
Yay!
Welcome back to the Soulful Leader Podcast. I'm Maren. I'm here with Stephanie. And a couple of podcasts ago, we talked about the scrawny cow. It's a fun podcast. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. And the scrawny cow represents things that we get attached to. And we don't even realize that we're attached to them. So they become defining figures in our lives without our even realizing it. And when I say defining figures, I'm going to use a story from my own life. I invested in a company that went public, and it was one of those like, oh my God, you get an opportunity of a lifetime, because most people don't, the average person, and I'm an average person, doesn't have an opportunity to invest in something before pre-IPO, before it goes public on the stock exchange. And I was like, oh my God, we have this opportunity. So I jumped, and we put quite a bit of money into it. And I have been holding on to it. It went public, oh gosh, 3 years ago. Popped.
I'm just going to say, like, when you say quite a bit of money, like a chunk of money that most people would be like, and we don't have to say how much that is, but I think just to give the levity of,
Yeah.
it's a large amount of life force that you put into someone else's dream.
So I borrowed $250,000 to invest it into this company. Yeah. And I borrowed it against my own, like, it, kind of like a mortgage rate. I borrowed it. I leveraged it against investments that I had. And I borrowed the money. So it went, when you invest in a public company, there are rules in place that say that you can't sell until 6 months after the IPO, at least for the average person. And like I said, I was just the average investor, right? So I had to follow those rules. So my investment was at about $4 a share, and it popped the day that it IPO'd. It popped. It went to $40 a share. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a gazillionaire. Holy crap, right? Like, so excited. And by the time I could sell my shares, I had lost half my money. It was down to $2 a share. And it just kept going lower and lower. And I invested in the company because I believed in the person who started the company. And I was so attached to the fact that he's a good person. He wouldn't screw us over. He's really trying. He's doing this and blah, like all the stuff, all the things.
You really believed in him. You really wanted to be that cheerleader for his dream and for
Absolutely.
him.
Yeah. And it was so in alignment with everything that I believed in and all of this stuff. And so last week, it was about to be long. I mean, it just kept plummeting and plummeting as it became a 30-cent stock. And then they reverse split 10-1. So we ended up with one piece of stock for 10 of them. And then that went down to 30 cents. And it just
got worse and worse and worse and
it
worse.
just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And if a stock is under $1 for a certain amount of time, it can be delisted. And what that means is if it gets delisted, so if I were to sell the stock and, I could actually have $250,000 worth of losses to claim against my taxes, because I lost that money. It's gone, right? And I realized last week, and it was funny because we just did the Scrawny Cow podcast, and it's something that's been percolating in me. And I realized that that was my scrawny cow. That was the thing that I had been attached to, that it was going to come back. It was going to make my money back. It was going to X, Y, or Z, that this person that I believed in was going to suddenly change to the person that I thought that he was originally,
Mhm.
right? All of the attachments around this. And in, I let it go. I let it go. I called my stockbroker and I said, sell it. It was at 42 cents. So I mean, it was absolutely nothing. It's not worth of any value. And I'm so like letting go of that
Yeah.
opened up so much space inside of me and
I think
allowed,
that's the key right there. Right there. It's like we hang on, we hang on, we hang on for whatever reason, you know?
yeah,
We hang on to a relationship, we hang on to a thought or a belief, we hang on to, just a habit that we have, thinking that eventually it's going to change or something will be better, which is a really lovely quality to have hope and inspiration. But it was costing you so much mental and emotional energy, even with the person that you originally invested in, like even
yeah,
that relationship and how it ripples out into every area of our life. I guess that's what we're trying to say is like, what are we hanging on to
yeah,
that actually is draining you more than it's actually giving you anything?
absolutely.
Like we even hang on to our pain sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
I'll hang on to my sore shoulder instead of like, oh, I'll just keep complaining. Oh, I can't do that. Sorry, no, I can't clean today because my shoulder hurts. Like we'll hang on to it because in some level, it's like a placeholder. It's holding us back until we're ready.
Until we're ready.
Until we're ready. And I think that's what we're making the point of. It's like, all the details of it, it's like another bad freaking country song. Like, you lost everything in it and you just want to like play it backwards. But one of those things, but it's really what we're talking about is like how we get so enmeshed in those attachments and then we
Yeah.
can't let go.
And so interesting because after I actually sold it and said, you know what, I'm done, and no more of my, it's like, okay, I'm going to go back. One of the concepts in investing is that you don't want to pour good money after bad, which is what we have a tendency to do. And this is exactly what we're talking about when we have an attachment to something. And I haven't put any more money into that stock. And what I realized was that I put so much of my life force into it.
Hmm.
So I've been pouring good money, meaning when you think of money, and we've talked about this before, money is called currency because it's a current, it's just an energy. And so I've been putting my energy for the last 3 years into this stock, which was going down and down and down and into this person that, it wasn't worth my time, energy,
Hmm.
whatever. And I don't want to get into good, bad, right, wrong here. What I want to point out is the fact that when I when I was ready and it took work.
Hmm.
I don't want to just be like, well, it just happened 3 years later, right? This is something that I've been working on to
Internally,
internal,
internally, I mean.
right?
Having this internal churning of like it's like that, "Should I stay or should I go?" song, "Should I stay or should I
Yes.
go now?" Like, how do you know? I guess I would say in the process because we tend to look at the products, like
Yes.
the productivity, like the outcomes, instead of looking at the internal state, which is what we're talking about here, especially as soulful leaders, is the internal process that you went through on whether or not to keep investing or to actually cash in. How do you know? What was your process in that?
So
What were you working with in the last 3 years?
I love that question because we tend to go to, in this situation, you do that. In that situation, you do, like, there's a preconceived, like, well, then Maren has the answer. Oh, if I'm ever in that situation, I do what Maren did. Or I don't, like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
Each
because
of
we're kinda
us,
talking like algorithms even. It's like, well,
right,
this has always happened, so therefore that's gonna happen. And
right.
we're actually transcending that, you all. That's what I'm hearing you say too, is that it's beyond that.
Yeah. It's everything shows up in our lives, in our individual lives for a reason. And this showed up in its way for me because of my unique situation and the things that I needed to work through personally to get me to where my next is. And that's been so I'll come back to answer your question. I do want to say that my next, it's amazing what showed up for me in the last week.
When
I-
all of a sudden you no longer had that energy going down that empty pit,
exactly.
you all of a
Yes,
sudden literally, maybe you didn't have that, $250,000 back in your hot little hand, but you had the currency
I
of the
do.
emotional energy and the mental energy and the soulful energy that now was available to you from a completely different level, is
It
what I'm.
is. Absolutely. And it's really phenomenal. So, to go back to answer your question, my process has been questing. And we've talked a lot about questing. And
Mhm.
what I mean by questing is literally asking questions and being open to answers that may not be at all what I thought they were going to be. And so when something shows up, asking more questions. And some of them are external questions, like I asked for advice from my stockbroker and from this person, from that person. And ultimately, it had to be my decision. And most of the questions are internal. Questions like, why am I attached to that? What does it represent for me?
Mhm.
If I didn't have that, who would I be?
Oh,
If,
that see, that question right there.
yeah,
If I didn't have that, who would I be?
and I have to
What
say
would be
that
free?
there's so many layers to that particular question because if I didn't have that, so I broke that question up into if I didn't have the hope of $250,000 turning into 1 million or 2 million, who would I be?
Mhm.
If I had a loss and owed $250,000, who would I be? If I didn't have that, who would I be? Like there were so many layers of that
Mm.
particular question that I just kept peeling and peeling and peeling and peeling and being like, I can choose. So, what I got to after peeling a bunch of those is I can choose to be any one of those people or none of them.
Yeah, regardless of what happened in the outer world.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
amazing. Like, that's the power of our internal being able, and it's the path, the road less traveled. We don't tend to go inward. We go outward to ask questions and seek or research or Google or whatever we're looking. I would say Dr. Google, let's ask Google. But it's like, how do we ask ourselves? And which self? Here's another level of it. This is what I go through. And what self am I talking to? Am I
Right.
am I talking to my scared self? Am I talking to my
Mm.
peaceful self? Am I talking to my little girl self? Am I talking to my wise sage self? Which self am I talking to right now? Because I've got trust me, I got a party going on in there. There is a party going on in there with a whole bunch of selves. So I want to know my true self, the one that chose this bodysuit to have this life experience. It has a greater outcome for me.
Mm.
That takes practice to build that relationship with that. And I don't think we're supposed to figure it out of who that
No.
is. It's the whole journey is the journey, is like staying in the quest, being able to ask a good question.
So I think that one of the things when you're talking about that that comes up for me is our self judgment of if I was a better person, that
Hmm.
wouldn't have happened to me. If I had done the right things, that wouldn't have happened to me.
Oh,
If I had
yes.
listened to so and so, that
You
wouldn't have
only
happened
coulda,
to
shoulda,
me.
woulda, ought tos.
All the coulda, woulda, shoulda, ought tos. Exactly.
Or even having the fixed mindset of like, "Well, that's just who I am. I'm a schleprock.
Uh,
I can't change. I don't know any better, and I can't do this." Like, we get in that fix instead of saying, like I said, the multiple selves, instead of saying, well, wait a minute, there is a life flowing through me. There's the currency, right? There's a life flowing through me that is infinitely wise. I want to ride that wave. I want to surf that wave and get to know that. And I need to be able to let go. There's a saying in the 12-step program, let go and let God. And if any of you out there have an issue with the word God, I always say use it as an acronym of get outdoors, out in nature. So find your natural, your nature. So whatever it is that you want to replace that word of God with, whether it's love or nature or kindness, whatever you want to put it with. But to me, letting go and literally giving it to something more beautiful, something more powerful that is giving you life right now beyond that you can figure it out. That is a practice, and that's called surrender. And it takes a tremendous amount of courage to let go of the attachments of who you think you are and what you think or assume is going to happen. I can't tell you how many times I've run into that this week of people saying, well, Stephanie, I didn't want to tell you this because I know that what you believe is this. And it's like a concrete this. And it's like, well, did I ever say that I believe that? Well, no, but I just assume that's what you believe because this is what you do. And I'm like, we get really attached to
Right.
who people are and what the markets are doing, or, well, the algorithm says this, or the polls, the political polls say that. It's like we have so much more power than what we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
But we don't know how to tap into it. We actually tap out.
And that would be so easy in my instance, like for this, it would be so easy to tap out. And instead, that's what I feel like I did is I tapped in and I said, game on. This is fun. Like, all right, how are we going to make that back? Let's have fun with it. And now I'm in the flow of that. And I've opened that door and it's so amazing how much space there is there because I didn't, this is what I said at the beginning is we don't realize our attachments. I didn't realize how attached I was to that and
Mhm.
how like we've used the analogy of the closed fist before. When you grasp onto something and you have this closed fist, there's no space in that fist.
And look at the fist. All it wants to do is fight.
Fight, right? I wanted to be angry at this person and he did it and I believe blah, blah, all the stuff. And when I let go of that, now all of a sudden you open your hand and there's space. And then if you actually open your hand with the palm up, you can receive.
Exactly. Like it's such a beautiful image and a metaphor. And I love that. I so love that. And to even just practice that with yourself, like squeezing your fist hard and know what that feels like. That's what attachments feel like. You're
Yeah.
holding on. And it takes a lot of energy to hold on.
Feel how
And
your
then
muscles feel. Like
yes.
everything is tense. And when you're tense, that you're stressed and oh, like I
And then when
feel it
you
in your
let go,
body.
if you turn your palm down, you're not your palms are down, you're not open to receive. Turn turn up. Turn your palms upward and like rest the palms on your like rest the backs of your hand on your knees so your palms are up and just feel what that does. I get people to do that as a therapist because as soon as you put your palms up and rest your hands on your knees, it opens your heart. It puts your shoulders back. It actually straightens your spine and you
Mm,
breathe better. There's a whole
yeah.
amazing physiological thing that has actually happened, and it's like if any of you ever have done yoga, part of the very ending part is shavasana, which is really about letting go and
Mm,
being receptive. And it is a practice. It's not like, oh, hey, I've done a great job doing all these asanas and all these, vinyasana flows, and now I get to, oh, thank God, I get to rest. No, we did all of that other stuff beforehand so that you could be receptive. And maybe that's what attachments are, is that
mm,
they drain us so much that we start to learn how to tap into our power
yeah.
and realize that that power is actually flowing through us infinitely. It's not limited, it's not scarce. And if we can actually just finally let go and let God or let the love just flow in, it's right there.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, no thing you need to do. There is something you need to practice, which is being and doing no thing, letting go. That's it.
Yeah. I love that analogy because I do think that, especially in our Western world, that yoga is about all of the stretching and the this and the that, right? And we've gotten out of the understanding that it's really about the breath work
Yeah, it's a
and
pathway for union.
it's a pathway for union, and that Shavasana truly is a practice in and of itself.
Mhm.
And when you do sit in the position that you were talking about with your hands up and, it opens your heart, it opens your lungs. The other thing that happens when you're in that position is all of your organs work better.
Yeah.
And
It
so
al and it changes your brain.
it changes your brain, your digestion, like everything works better. And we have so many diseases, disease. And it's a literal dis-ease with who we are, with what we're doing, with how we're being, etc. And so what is my question for our listeners is, what is your practice for being at ease
A great
with
question.
yourself? Because
Yeah.
that's what I had to go through. I had to find the me that I was at ease with in order to let go of such a
Yeah,
vast amount
because
of money
if you're not at ease, Maren, then there's a secret part of you that's still actually fighting and hanging on.
and grasping and holding and
Uh-huh,
right
and
and keeping me
it's still
tense
draining your power,
and
draining
my
your currency,
mhm.
your life force.
And that's what costs me, like I do have digestive issues. I have for years and they're getting better. And I truly believe it was not Western medicine that has helped me with that. I truly believe that it's been this process of finding those little places that I'm still attached, that I'm like, okay, and not being judgmental about it. I'm like, oh, look at you, little booger. Oh, I get it. I get why you're attached to that. Yeah. Oh, God bless you. Thanks for being willing.
To be able for you to look inside and
Yeah.
have that conversation or have that visual of what is really going on internally without judging it or shaming it, but to create space for observing it.
Mm.
And then being able, and that's the whole key is that to observe it, and then you can have the freedom to change it. That's our true control. That's our true power.
Yeah.
Like I look at that, like when I think of weight, I always say, like, I don't want to lose weight because as soon as I lose weight, my brain's going to try to go and find it. And I just want to
Right.
let it go. I just want to drop that heaviness, right?
Yeah.
And when I hear you talking, it's reminding me of like, gee, what am I carrying?
Mm.
There's my attachments again. What am I carrying in my mind, in my heart? What are my worries? What am I attached to that I am having a hard time letting go of? Habits, behaviors, relationships, thoughts, ideas, hobby, all these different things. I recently went through something with my cat. Now my cat,
Mm.
he's a very special needs cat. I just love my cat. He's been with me for almost 18 years. It'll come up 18 years, hopefully, God willing, in another couple of weeks. But a couple weeks ago, he went through a real downward spiral, and I thought, "Oh my God, he's gonna die." And I'm like, "Well, of course." The other part inside of me says, "Well, of course, he's 18. What, you think he's gonna live together? That's like 126 in cat years. Like really? He's a little old man. Like God love him." And I started to think, am I being selfish, being
Mm.
attached to him? Like, who will I be when he's no longer be like, here?
Right.
What will I do with my time, my energy, my like right now I don't go away because I'm like, "Oh, but what happens if my little guy, what happens if my furry friend, dies when I'm away?"
Chooses to leave,
Right,
right.
I don't wanna do that, and I don't wanna leave him with someone. I don't wanna put that burden of responsibility on I don't think it would be really kind. He's an old, and trust me, my family's already said, "Stephanie, what happens if he dies and I'm here?" I don't wanna do that. So I don't wanna leave that on someone. So I had to have, like, a literally heart to heart with many of those parts of myself inside because there's a lot of parts that are really hanging on.
Mm.
and it's using a lot of life force, and I didn't want to be resentful to my furry friend who's been with me and has been an incredible companion, but is also taking up a lot of life force and energy. So I too have been asking that question of like, what what is what's being called with me to do? I want to do, and it's not about the right thing or the wrong thing. I want to do what is the highest, most beautiful way of helping this. And I realize, I haven't even really looked at my own mortality. I'm attached to, I still, in my own mind, I think I'm 20. And I put myself on a snowboard and go down the hill and still think I'm 20 until I fall. And then I'm like, you're not 20. It really hurts. I have this total denial in myself. And I realize I'm like, this cat, this beloved little fur being is really helping me look at some attachments inside and look at the things that I've been carrying that I really need to address with some love and attention and not just keep pushing it aside because I'm attached and
Mm.
it's draining my life force and my energy. And I don't want it to, I want it to be free and to be
Mm.
flowing.
And for every person, that's going to look differently because the other thing that I hear is how much it's feeding you.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not saying that attachments are bad things. It just is, again, we're
Look at
like,
it with love.
yeah,
And
just to
ask
be
yourself,
aware of where is it serving you
right?
and is it not? And it may serve you this week and then it might change next
You are
week.
making such a good point about it because I think we think in black and white. Like, is it right?
Yeah,
Is it wrong? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it up? Is it down? Is it left? Is it right? Like, what if all of we could just wipe all those things out of the way and we could just look at it from another perspective that it's all of those and none of those.
right.
That there's another way that we could even be in relationship with all of that. That's more
Because
loving.
that having holding on to that stock served me and it served me very well and that's what I needed for years obviously until it didn't serve me and the only way I knew was to keep asking myself the questions and that's when I realized like no it's a grasping right now it's no longer something that excites me I'm like oh this is a like oh look at what I've got right it just it shifted for me.
So you said something right there too about a grasping, and I have the image of somebody going down on a raft on a stream, on a river.
Hmm.
And it's, like, ready to go over some rapids, and there's a little apprehension. So what do? We reach out and we grab a limb that's hanging on the bank. But the river's still moving. It's still going. You're still on that raft, and you're hanging on, and what it's doing to your arm and your shoulder is not a good thing. It isn't a good, I mean, maybe for temporary, you're getting some strength, but after a while, it's not gonna helpful. So my question, and this is the question I always have to say to myself, and I'm saying it to you all out there that are listening, what would you have to believe in or become in order to totally let go of that branch and surrender to the unknown
And trust.
and totally trust it?
Wow.
I'm gonna do that question myself actually, 'cause it just kinda popped in as you were talking about grasping. So,
Well,
it's a great
to be
practice.
honest, that's where I had to that was the real inner work that had to happen for me to let go. I had to trust that like, okay, I'm going to be able to pay that money back.
Well, you just said, let go, let God. What would be the God you would have to trust in
Yeah.
that would allow you to let go? Create that as your reality. Create that as your imaginal world that you can surrender and do shavasana in
Mm, I
and
love that.
be.
And be because from where I am right now and the amount of space and belief and trust that I have right now, it's night and day from where I was a week ago. And it's like, oh, that's what's waiting on the other side when you truly trust and let go from a deep place. It's amazing.
So I'm going to acknowledge something in you, and I'm going to let the listeners know all this too. You know, Maren has not done this alone. Maren, I have known Maren for almost 30 years now. And both Maren and myself have many teachers
Yeah.
that we sit with, that we are given practices that we go away with and we practice. And then we come back to our teachers and we say, hey, here's how it went. Here's how it didn't go. Here's where I'm struggling. And there's no right or wrong. But I'm just saying, it's like sometimes we think, oh, we've got the answer for all things. We don't.
No,
And yet we do, because the answer is in all of us. But my question again is that we need each other.
we do.
And more than anything right now in our world, we are really needing each other to be able to come together, not to look outside ourselves for answers, but we need each other so that we've got a safe place to go inside and find the answers and then come out and talk about them and tweak them and practice them. And that's what my hope and my vision and longing would be for us all, is to have someone or many people around you all who are listening that are going to help you with some practices, because we're all worth it. And it's such an extraordinary life to be on the path with someone else. And I am extremely grateful to be doing these podcasts with Maren, because it has changed me so much and it has been a practice. And I'm glad we don't need to do it alone. And I'm telling you all out there that are listening, you don't need to do it alone either.
Yeah, we're not meant to do it alone. Our lives, our life mission is specifically designed for us to need each other. So we actually won't be able to do it alone. We need each other. So if anyone is interested, this is the type of work that we do in our co-creation circle, and it's closed for this year, and we would be glad to possibly open another one if we got enough interest, and there is a possibility of joining it for next year. So if that's of interest to you, to explore this type of stuff with a group of people that are on this path, let us know. We'd love to chat with you. So remember, you can find us every other week on our podcast right here at the Soulful Leader podcast. And in between, you can get our email that's got a blog post that we share, and we don't spam you. You can also find us on our Facebook page and our LinkedIn page and our YouTube channel. So, hey, can you guys do us a favor? Go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we're trying to get to that magic 1,000 subscriber number that YouTube loves. And we would love your help. So if you would go and subscribe and send some of your friends, we would appreciate that. You can find everything at The Soulful Leader. We'll see you all next week on The Soulful Leader.
And that wraps up another episode of the Soulful Leader podcast with your host, Stephanie Allen
and Maren Oslack. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to dive deeper, head over to our website at thesoulfulleaderpodcast.com.
Until next time.